Hey everybody, it is Wintermute here, and so I'm off work for right now because I'm sick and they don't want anybody coming in. Now I'm pretty sure it's just a head cold, but they want to play it safe, and I agree with that. So I've had a lot more time on my hands to kind of take care of some projects I've been thinking about, and I wanted to share a few more of them with you. I will be playing in a YouTube war coming up here in a couple months. So I'm trying to get things squared away in part for that. So there are a couple things that I've been doing to cut for myself to make play easier, and to make the map visually stand out a little bit better for somebody who might be watching as well. So one of the things with this particular YouTube war is we're going to be playing with a couple different expansions. And one of them is Latin America at War. So I was looking at the pieces for Latin America at War, and I made a decision about something. Now, me personally, these tiny green chits here, they blend in really easy to the background, and I find that that's kind of a problem with some of these pieces, especially when they're colored exactly like the actual land zone for the territory that they're in. So one thing I decided to do, I wanted to kind of make them pop a little bit more. So what I did is all the pro allied chits, I went ahead, or yeah, pieces. I went ahead and I added a just a green chit to the back, and that's just ticky tack holding that together. And it's visually easier to look at it right away and figure out what's going on. And then the neutrals are white. The axis are, I made all the axis black. Now, even though some of the pieces in this are gray, I wanted to color code everything that is Axis related is black. Everything that is Allied related is going to be green, because this is predominantly going to be an American deal down here. And anything that is Russian related would have been red, but I went with brown instead. And I'll explain why in just a bit. But visually, I like looking at this a little bit better. It makes things pop. It's a little bit easier to see what's going on down here, who's aligned with who right off the bat. I don't have the pieces, the actual figurines color-coded like they recommend in the actual expansion. I don't know if I'll get to that in time. That's not a high priority for me, because even though everything is basically white and yellow down there as far as pieces go, it's not going to be that hard to tell them apart if they start shooting at each other. So that's one thing I did. I also went ahead and these radio towers that can be built, I did the same thing with them. These radio towers are kind of thin, and I painted them silver, and by themselves, they kind of can very easily blend in. So again, I put them on the black chip so that the Axis player or the Ally player could go, okay, that's an Axis thing, because it's black. That's a German thing, it's black. Same thing with the spy tokens. It makes them stand out a little bit better. So far, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, anything I talk about here, though, is not, it's not necessarily complete. It's a work in progress. I may get into playing the game and go, you know what, this isn't working out quite like I hoped, so I may do something differently, or I may just take it apart, probably after the game, so I don't confuse anybody. But all this it's always a work in progress for me. Now, the reason I didn't want to use red chips for the Russian stuff is because I already have a very specific purpose for red chips on the board. And if you'll recall, I went ahead and I just made all the militia that I have in the game, they're all just painted yellow, because they can't leave their home country anyway. So if it's in Britain, then you know it's a British militia. It's as simple as that. It's a British militia. So this way, I don't have to have handfuls of militia for each nation's color. I just have all yellow militia, and I just keep them. I keep some extra ones in one of these nearby, so I can swap them out as the turn goes by, or I want to build one. Real simple and easy. So keeping with that kind of color coding motif, one thing I opted to do early on when I started playing is the red chip. Now, traditionally in Axis and Allies, you've got the gray chips for ones, the green chips for threes. But I played Axis and Allies before there even were green chips. Dating myself a little. But then you had red chips, which were fives. I don't find in Global War 36 very often that I need those red chits to represent 5. So quite frankly, I don't even use them for that. I just use the green and the gray to represent 1s and 3s, and that's always been enough for me. So what I did instead is I use red chips solely for damage. So let's say this major port gets damaged, right, for 5 points for whatever reason. I would just drop five red chips on it, and any player could look at that and know it was damaged because it's got red. I'm trying to color code everything on the board a specific way. If you see red like that, you know it's damage. Oh, and then if you wanted to, you could always just pop a loose major port token on top, so it's you visually there's no confusion about what it is that's damaged, which is probably a good idea as well. But again, this way it's easy for somebody to kind of survey the map and take it in a little quicker. That's my hope anyway. Especially if you're playing, if you only play on the weekends with your group, then it's easy to forget things if you don't take notes from the last game about things you have to remember to do. So with that said, that's part of my motivation for that. So I went ahead and I just went with the brown chips with the red token for the Russians. I don't have maroon chips. This was the closest thing. So I'm not using these brown chips for anything else. So I figured that worked. But of course I may change how that's handled in the future. Then one of the other expansions we're going to be playing with is, two of the other expansions we're going to be playing with is the Colonial Troops expansion, Colonial Infantry expansion, and the Canada at War expansion. Now, between those two expansions, there are a lot of very specialized units. And that's fine. I like some of the specialized units. But one thing that I realized would become problematic now, and I even made the one front and back page reference sheet for all of the specialized colonial infantry you can build. And you can see this is how I'm going to have the British card set up. And I'm just going to line up all those colonial infantry here. So when they're doing their turn, they can go, you know what? Yep, this is the turn I wanted to build this guy. And oh, look, he costs 2 IPP. Let's get that focused. So what I did is I made these to go on the bottom of these tokens because sometimes I found it's very hard to pick this token up and read it sometimes because it's white writing on that beige background, and then sometimes the base is a little off center. Now it's just ticky-tack, so I can kind of slide it around. But even then it's kind of like, okay, it says Colonial, and it's the RAR. Wait, what was the RAR? Where did they come from? Oh, right. These were the guys who were built in Rhodesia. I still don't think that's coming into focus very well. These are the guys who were built in Rhodesia. They have attack of 2, a defense of 4, a move of 1. They cost 2 to build, and they have no desert penalties for combat. And I did that for every single one of these colonial troops. So we'll pick this guy. This guy is built in the Sudan. I did not put the name of the unit. I simply put where it was built, because that'll probably, you can find that on that chart just as easy as you can find the name. This guy is attacks 3, defends 4, moves at 1, 2, costs 2, and also has no desert penalties during combat or movement. So I did that with all of these, and I did the best to kind of sum up what their special ability was. This guy here starts in Nigeria. He's a 2-4-1-2, and he starts the game on the board. So that doesn't absolve you from having to go look up those rules, but particularly with this expansion, they're not super complex when it comes to those special abilities. So, all you need is a little key reminder about what that unit does, and that's it. You don't have to generally go look it up unless you know it's that 1 or 2 that's just a little more complex than the rest. So I think that'll help ease play as I'm picking, but also when I'm getting ready for combat. Because now I don't have to necessarily have that card in my hand and, okay, this unit is this guy. Okay, he's a 3-4, he goes here. No, I can just go, okay, this guy attacks at a 3. This guy attacks at a 3. This guy attacks at a 2. And I can just put them in their respective attack value slots and then modify it based on terrain and other factors. And I can just keep on going. So I think this will work really well to help speed things up. And then we're also going to be playing with Canada at War. Now, Canada at War has 6 specialized units, not including the corvettes. And so in these cases, though, these Canadian units have more complex rules to them than the Colonial Infantry do in general. So what I did is, like Devil's Brigade. Devil's Brigade is a very complex unit. It's got the stats there, and I really don't know why this isn't focusing like it should. There we go. 2124, and then I also wrote special with a plus sign. Now, that's a bad example. I just wrote special because there's a lot of special rules. But let's look at the Queen's Own Rifles. Focus. Focus. I don't know what's going on. No, this isn't an issue. But anyway, Queen's Own Rifles is a 2212. It's a militia, but I also put a plus sign next to it. That tells me there's more rules than just this that you should look up when you're handling this unit. So that'll be an easier way to kind of, I don't have to constantly go back to the cards. So I'm hoping that works out. I think that will work out really well in general. And then the next thing I did, and this one I think may need a little more tweaking, but there's canals, there's straits, there's, and each type has it, there's, what's the other one? There's channel crossings, and there are narrow crossings. And those are 4 very particular type of terrain features on the board. And each one has its own kind of special rules governing how it works and how it plays. So what I did is, and I know that the writing on this is very small, and that was deliberate on my part because I did not want it to be intrusive on the map. But you can see there, that's the Straits of Gibraltar card. Straits of Gibraltar, you need to have Gibraltar to use this. Owner of Gibraltar may close 2 nations with whom they are at war with. Land units cannot cross a strait. Air units can fly over a neutral nation strait. Submarines can move through a closed strait. Naval units can non-combat through a strait the turn it is captured. So I made these cards, and they're ticky-tack to the board. Just basic ticky-tack. It comes up real easy, comes off, it doesn't. And I deliberately, a couple months ago, I left ticky-tack on a corner of the board for 4 or 5 months straight. I just sat it there, and then I pulled it up, and it came off no problem. It was a little dry. It will dry out over time. But it didn't damage the board in any way, and I didn't expect it to. So I know this isn't going to, that ticky-tack's not going to damage my board any. So that's the card for Gibraltar. So I know, again, kind of like with all those infantry units in those expansions, sometimes you have to keep on going back to that card and double checking this and double checking that. And I'm looking for ways to kind of cut down on that if I can. And this was one idea I had. Now, this is not perfect, and you can already see why, because that's very small type print. Now, the reason it's kind of small is because some of these areas don't have a ton of space to fit this card. Some do. Okay. Now, this one I could probably double in size, and it wouldn't really, I'd probably do 150% of, I'd probably, increase it to 150%, and that would probably be okay. It'd be easier to read. Now remember, with these though, I have the biggest map possible, so I have a little more space in each zone to maybe blow it up. I also have another problem because I have the biggest map. If you look over there, you can see the card for the channel crossings. I can't read that from here. And you certainly can't either. Even when I lean in kind of as far as I comfortably can, I can just barely make out the print, the actual typing. So because my map is so big, that's going to be an issue. So I need to kind of figure out a different way of doing that. I will, now that one won't be too difficult. I can probably just increase the font a couple times, get it to a nice size. I have space in that C zone that it won't really cover anything that's important. The more difficult ones will be the ones up there, like near Scandinavia. Now, I don't go behind my table. I left space there in case I do, but generally speaking, I don't go back there very often. I have these retractable back scratchers like this that I use to actually kind of push units around that are on that side of the board. Now, if I had more space back there, or if I was playing at the local game store, it wouldn't be as big a deal because I could just kind of go around the table and look at it, and it's no problem. And for the player who's playing like maybe Russia or Germany, they could even just take them off and flip them around so they could read them better, because that's where they're going to be, on that side of the board. That's where they're going to have their build card. That's where they're going to keep their IPPs and their potential builds and stuff. So, it's not a perfect solution. And for smaller maps, in some ways, it almost would work better. My bigger map, I'm going to have to look for ways of kind of finagling it a little. And some of these C zones are not a problem. They have plenty of space. Others, you kind of start to get to the issue of what information do you want to cover up, or does it start to look garish or crowded? Because I definitely don't want to overcrowd the map either. Now here's the one for the Suez Canal. I also want to get something to maybe get rid of that reflection, make it a little easier to read. But here's the Suez Canal. Now this right here isn't going to take up a whole lot of space. I could have put it up here. I could even just stick it over here in Arabia. Nobody's going to be any the wiser because nothing really generally happens in Arabia. But I do like these. Again, you're sitting here, you're leaning in, you're planning your moves, and all of a sudden a question pops into your head, and you go, wait, can I move through Suez? And so you got to break your train of thought and go look it up, grab the card, open the rule book, download the PDF, whatever it is, however you have it stored, and then come back and then you'll probably have to do it again in 5 minutes because you're still planning out your turn and you came up with another question. Part of the goal of these, along with all these other things that I like to do, is put as much information out there as possible, so you don't have to constantly go back to the sheets. And I put a lot of effort into making my sheets easy to read, readily accessible. But if I can get the more I can stay out of the rulebook and off the sheets, I think the game is going to run smoother. So I didn't make little cards like this for the the Kaiser Wilhelm Canal. I didn't do this for the Russian canal up there. I didn't do it for the American Great Lakes Canal thing. Those, number one, they're a lot simpler. The Wilhelm Kaiser Canal, it's very basic. You don't necessarily need to put the rules out there like that. Now, I might do that at some point just to be thorough. I might, or on the other hand, it's just like, I don't see it as that big of a deal. And I also did one for, and I just realized I need to put one out here for this narrow crossing. But I also did one for the Burma Road. Now, when I did the Burma Road, I didn't put any information on here about when it opens, how it opens, or anything like that. I just wanted to focus on the mechanics when you're down here moving guys around the board, how it works. That's all I cared about. So there's a lot of information. At that point, I figured the player will need to just look at their sheet because I am trying to keep these compact and I want to just focus on the rules about how the mechanics work. And unless it's extra relevant to whether it's, like in the case of the Suez Canal. Well, he who owns the Suez Canal can deny access to any nation they're at war with. So that's an important point to put in there. And then I also have the other rules for how canals work. I also, with the Burma Road, you can see I had a bunch of those extra kamikaze tokens. So what I did is I just made a real simple closed, which it starts the game as, and open. So this way, again, any player can just quickly look at the board, see that it's open or closed, and just move on. And the Burma Road does not always open up at the same date. So you can go a couple turns after it's supposed to have opened where it's not open. And you may ask, wait, is the road open? Well, so long as you're keeping up on this token, you can easily nope, it's closed, open, closed. Because there are some particular circumstances surrounding the Burma Road and how it, when and how it opens. But the actual here, this is just the mechanics of how that works. And so the last thing I want to talk about, and this I would really like some feedback on. I have not found any models that I like for super carriers. I haven't found any on HBG's website. So if they're hidden somewhere, I'm just not seeing them. I say super carrier, I mean advanced carriers or heavy carriers. So this is what I came up with, and I'm not sold on this because there are some problems with it, but it will work if they come into play. So this is a regular fleet carrier for America. You can see right off the bat, when I put the magnets on here to hold the planes, I cut it to roughly shape the outline of the deck. I think that looked a little cleaner and nicer for those. And now I'm glad I did in hindsight because for these, and of course these American ones are always off center, and I hate that. It drives me nuts. But now when I wanted to take, now this is a regular fleet carrier model, just like this one, but you can see what I did differently. I squared out and just made the actual deck larger. So now it can actually fit a fighter here, and a fighter here. And all three will fit because it's just longer than it would normally be, and I didn't cut off those edges to kind of shrink it. So already it looks more physically imposing, like it's a heavier carrier. I also went ahead and I took, these are just washers. Yeah. No, that's not the right, I can't think of the right word. But these are the same ones that I use here at the base of my airplane flight stands. But what I did is I went ahead and I just kind of like, stacked them up, 2 rows, glued them all together, spray painted them baby blue to kind of match this, and then I glued them to the bottom of the carrier. And so again, not only is it physically larger if you're looking down on it, you look at it from the side, it also looks physically larger from the side. And then I did the same thing with the Japanese carrier here. So that's your super carrier, or heavy carrier, excuse me. So this is what I've done. It is not the cleanest thing. Regular super glue does not work. These are smooth. There's no grit between them. I could probably sandpaper the bottom of this carrier and then it would work better. But I haven't gone that far. So I tried using Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue does hold better, but these still pop off if you drop it. Even once, they're going to pop off because there's just not a whole lot to hold on to. Even that Gorilla Glue struggles with that. And you can see here, if you use the wrong amount of Gorilla Glue, it looks like you've got battle damage coming out the side of the carrier, which was not what I wanted. So this is passable. This gets the job done for what I need it to do right now. But if anybody has any suggestions on how they modified existing models to make the heavy carriers, or are they hidden on HPG's website and I just haven't found them, or is there some good ones on Shapeways that I haven't found? Because I have looked, but they were the wrong scale. They just didn't look right. They tended to be this normal A&A size, or they tended to be too big. I couldn't find any that were just, reasonably bigger than this, that you could just look at it and go, okay, that's your super carrier. I got it, and move on. So, like I said, more time on my hands, so I'm getting some of these pet projects done. Let me know what you think. I will eventually post these, all these, like these sheets so you can print them off, but I want to play around with them a little bit more, listen to some suggestions. Maybe somebody wants to go ahead and, maybe I'll put up a prototype, where I'm at now, and then maybe somebody can print them off and figure out what they want to do and maybe give some feedback on, hey, if you try this instead, and I think you'll get a better product. Maybe it's just a matter of changing the font. Maybe that makes it a lot more readable. And you can kind of still keep it kind of compact like that. So again, any suggestions people have, especially about these the heavy carriers, would be much appreciated. And if you take anything out of this video and apply it to your own game, fantastic. Anything that makes the game run smoother, better, and easier is I'm all about. So for right now, this is Wintermute signing off.